Meeting to order. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to call to order this regular scheduled meeting of the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission, Wednesday, April the 20th, 2022. Jay, would you do the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Armstrong.
Present.
Commissioner Newkirk.
Here.
Vice Chair Pritchard.
Here.
And we're waiting on Commissioner Lesniak.
He just texted me saying he's joining.
Okay, great.
All right, we'll give him a moment. I think this is what's called a pregnant pause. And while we're waiting, Jay, do we have any indication of when and if we'll be able to start meeting in person?
So that did come up at one of our internal staff meetings, and what the plan is that we're going to prepare one room that can do hybrid meetings. So individuals could participate via Zoom and participate in person if they like. I think the only room we have like that is the council chambers, and that requires a crew to operate the cameras and let people in and out and such. So it may be a little while, but I think the city manager's objective is to take advantage of technology and what we're allowed to do to allow the meetings to be just slightly more flexible.
Right. Because city council has had members of the public in their audience, have they not?
They do. They have members of the public in the audience now. But they also try to accommodate individuals via Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see in the comment sections, they will group it into people in the council chambers and people calling in by phone. I'm not sure if they're, and they have guest participants via Zoom also.
Right.
Jay, is the hybrid setup expected to be temporary, or is this seen as like a long-term new way of doing things?
I think hybrid is intended to be the long-term new way of doing things. So
Very good.
I don't know where he is. I think we just start, Russell.
All right, yeah, let's move along. All right, so we're in the roll call. So item C, acceptance of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes that they wish to make, or can we have a motion to accept the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay,
There's
item D, public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission, and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time the item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned to each speaker. Jay, do we have anyone of the public here?
we do not.
All right. Then we'll move along to item E, which is approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 23rd, 2022 and March 16, 2022. Does anyone have any changes or additions to the minutes that we received? No? All right. May I have a motion to accept both? Please. Got some reverberation going on there.
That was me. I apologize.
All right. So motion to accept these minutes. Gary and Barrett are both muted.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the February and March meetings.
Okay.
Second. I think it's because Matthew's on flight.
Yeah, we're getting this weird.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, can you mute yourself or do something while that's get that cleared up? All right, so item E is remarks from the chair. Our chair is currently making her way back from Brazil, so she has no comments. So we'll give Matthew a moment because I want to move on to item G, the items for discussion and approval. So Matthew, can you hear us?
I can.
All right. Yeah, because we're not seeing you, and I'm seeing you showing up twice on my screen, whatever that means. But anyway, you are with us, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to item G, items for discussion and approval. There you are. Item number 1 is to discuss and approve the extension of the loan agreement at no cost of the Gonzala Libreja, and pardon my pronunciation of that, suspended in time artwork. And for the previous commissioners, this was a piece that it was commissioned by the Public Arts Museum that we in the Arts Commission allocated, I believe it was $25,000 to cover the installation amount. And if Jay, if you can give us an update on that. And the question is, what was the end point for the installation as it currently is? And what are they asking for the extended period of time to be?
Mr. Vice Chair, I believe the current loan of the art piece ends later this month, actually. So it was initially approved in November of 2019, but I don't think the agreement was actually executed until April of, April of 21. And so
That's approximately when it was installed, was last April?
Right, and it was, well, that's when the agreement was executed. It was a 1-year agreement. And so now at this point, actually, I think they're having an event. They wanted to get lighting and such up on the art piece. And so they're working with the city's engineering and planning department to get approvals to do that. But we also want to make sure that if they do that, it is something the Arts Commission would like to see continue through an extension of that agreement for a year, another 2 years, whichever your pleasure might be.
So the museum is hopeful for at least another year?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because my thought would be to extend it through the end of December 31st, 2022, just in case we as the Arts Commission want to use this space, because it is technically the art part of the downtown park and would be available to us to do an installation on. But end of December, end of April, Commissioner, have any thoughts?
Is there any financial demand from us on this, Jay?
No, there is no more request for money. It's just, and one thing that we will request with the extension is that the museum actually adds the Arts Commission as one of the financial sponsors.
Mm-hmm. So there's no downside to us?
Really, no. No, just a matter of, do we want access to this property prior to April 2023? So end of December, April, it's only a few months. So if they want a year, I'm fine with it going through April, end of April 2023.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. All right, then somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that we extend the contract to April 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Moving on to item 2, discuss and approve request from the Palm Springs Art Museum to renew artwork loans at the airport and the convention center. Now, I emailed Jay a week or so ago because I would like us to have a list of what the artworks are at each of these locations and a copy of what the loan agreement looks like so that we could consider this? Because I don't even know what the art is. It's just a
Right.
general extended to for whenever.
Yes, and until Chair Merrigan had to leave the country, she was working with the city attorney and actually museum staff to tour these locations, take a look at the artwork, and I guess get some feedback from museum in terms of what they were looking for in terms of an extension. But I think we'll have to touch base with the chair, see what she's managed to, the information she's gathered. Hopefully the list you're speaking of, I think we'll look at those pieces.
Okay, then I suggested that we table item 2 to our May agenda. If everyone's in favor of that.
That's fine.
Okay. Item number 3 is a report on the 1 PS picnic, Public Arts Commission participation and updated budget. Barrett or Matthew, would you like to take it away?
Want me to do it, Barrett?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. First of all, the picnic was a success. And I'm getting feedback also. Let me see what I have here. Our total cost came to $572.91. I believe our budget was $2,300, and there should be a total of $1727.09 that remains. We received positive feedback throughout. Hold on just for a second. Let me see if I can change that.
And the limited amount of time that I was there, I do think that kudos to both Barrett and Matthew for pulling this together with relatively short time frame. Our little table looked really good. There was nice items on it, stuff to interact with kids. So congrats on that, guys, to doing this.
My apologies for that. I think I've taken care of it. When we were there, we received nothing but positive feedback about our presentation, about our being there, about the benches downtown, about just public arts in general. I heard nothing, and Barrett, I think you'll agree with this, nothing but positive feedback. There were a few people that came up to us, and I actually contacted Stacy, and I also included Gary on this. One of the gentlemen came up, Jerry Ellercon, he's a commissioner, also the chairperson for the commission. He asked about the bike racks because he needed bike racks. He had asked about the Spider. He has gotten in touch with me and said the Spider has been refurbished. It's on site, it's working, and that Stacy has provided him more bike racks for his summer programs that go on. Barrett and I also developed a list of things that we may suggest for other times that we want to have the commission represented. So if you want, we can forward that to you later on, and we all can review it together.
Well, yeah, because I think it's a very good idea for us to have in place the canopy, the table, sort of basic signage with our website, that sort of information. So yeah, could you guys work up a proposal perhaps for the May agenda? And that's something we could vote on and move forward with. Okay, and just to, before closing, the cost included artist directory flyers, grant sheets. Barrett created a game which people really loved, a tablecloth, which was $206 with Palm Springs Public Arts Commission written on it. Things for the kids that came by, and also crayons and artist copies for people to participate. Yeah, Barrett and I will get that list to you. Yeah, perfect. It was, yeah, very job well done. Thank you, guys.
Can I just make a request? If you, because I'm going to address this and then something else I'm dealing with, but I think it will help us to be thinking of our expenses of things that can be amortized over a number of years. So as you said, your table and the tablecloth, those can be used in subsequent events. And, and then let's break out the stuff that was specific to this one event that cannot be used again next year. And I think it will help us sort of sell through the concept and the potential of these things to City Hall as well. That
Yeah,
these are
exactly.
expensive.
Yeah, we need the set of ingredients that are going to be consistent, and then the event-specific items that we can plan for and produce.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, moving on to item number 4, commissioner updates. Temporary Art Subcommittee. I don't believe that committee has met. Stop in the Labor of Love and utility boxes. That's Commissioner Favreau, who is not present. Park and Rec, Scary, would you have an update?
Yes, and this is, I'm putting this in Parks and Rec, even though it's not technically Parks and Rec. Jay connected me with somebody about my idea of the North Riverside area of doing an art walk in there. And he very nicely connected me to the city manager, who then said, it's not a park, but you should engage parks in this. And here's a plan that was approved from 2010, which I sent you all. And the idea of the plan included having public art and a lot of educational components in that. So there was a bit of a back and forth internally that went on for a couple of days of who should take the lead on this. I then had a meeting with my parks liaisons last week. And they were like, well, this isn't a park. Why are we involved? And I said, well, potentially it could be. And the Arts Commission will take the lead on this. Tracy is helping me. And I said, look, we will write everything up. We will take the lead. I just need your buy off. And I would like you to get involved at the beginning rather than an end of game approval, because I think it'll be stronger. So the idea is we will go to parks, and we will then go to sustainability. We will create an overall proposal, which will then go to the Measure J Commission for some funding. And the idea is that the Arts Commission budget will sponsor and pay for some art specific pieces. And then we work with the other commissions to do things like benches and shade structures and things like that, and monument signs, which would be needed to create this eco art walk along North Riverside. I then had a meeting on Monday with the new assistant city manager and with the head of the Parks and Rec who's also on the liaison to the Parks Commission as well. And I basically was trying to find out, how are we supposed to go about this? Because there seems to be a sort of a stumbling of how do we deal with multi-commission opportunities? And in a lot of ways, I think that this is the future for Palm Springs. We need to be doing commission work together, because citizens of Palm Springs do not live in this hermetically siloed world. Art needs to go in a park. Art may be involved with sustainability. It may be involved with human rights, and all these different commissions. So we need to figure out how we mesh these commissions together. The new assistant city manager gave me a couple insights on how to pitch this and take this through city council, which I thought were interesting and are good for more than just this specific project. And she said, one of the things that they're talking about is for us to get a general approval on the concept before we go too far. And she said, if there's a way we can get city council to approve the idea of something, rather than here's the final idea, here's what it's going to look like, here's what it's going to cost, just is this a priority for the city right now? So we need to work on that. And that's a bigger discussion that I'll talk to Tracy about when she's back. Beyond that, she said, we're more than welcome to address this with city council members prior to an entire city council pitch. And so our next step is we're going to get this together as much as we can in terms of presentation, and then go to Lisa Middleton, because the potential park area or art walk area is in her district. So it's District 5. And another point which makes this interesting is they've added the CV link in this area, and it's going to be going along there. So this is going to be a high traffic area for not only Palm Springs residents, but Palm Springs visitors as well. Just one more point. And then, and the point I made to them is, we are aware that this is a multi-year project. This is not where all the work is going to be done, and it's going to be done, at the end of this year. So in terms of budgetary reasons, I said, we need to really be thinking about this as stuff that we need to have money for right now, but the final thing may be 2 years away. by the time we get approvals from all the commissions and City Hall and the stuff is implemented. So we need to think of our budgeting process that way as well. It's not just give us all this money and we're going to spend it immediately, which triggered something that came up as well with the mural discussion. So it's sort of a procedural thing that I think we need to address.
Right. But if I make a question, why does Park and Rec say that this is not going to be a park?
Because it's not a park.
What is it?
It's just public land.
Public land. But if the public land is going to have benches and shade structures and plantings, who's going to take care of these?
Well, that's a good question because there's already dog poop bag stations there and lights, and there's a sidewalk through it. So the city's already taking care of it. It's just not, and Jay, you can probably speak to this, but it's just not classified.
Okay.
So that's what, and you know, the point that I made with the assistant city managers is, you know, we're trying to be proactive here rather than reactive.
Yeah.
And I said, I think that there is, you know, if you look, there is no park, technical or not technical, anywhere sort of, I mean, the most southerly park is Duluth Park. And the one on the closest to the mountain is Baristo. There's nothing for the rest of the southern part of the city.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a very worthwhile project to move forward because you can combine the park component, walkway, the horticultural aspect, as well as the art aspect. And given that we finally have a beautiful new downtown park, which I think is getting a lot of use and a lot of great recognition, this seems to make sense that it would be a powerful addition to the city. So if you can just inch it along in the various directions that you need to, and I think it's a spectacular idea. And for us to do to have the opportunity to do an eco art installation park where everything is made from recycled ingredients would be spectacular.
Yeah, you know, as I said, it sort of is conceptually, it feels right for the area. And it was pleasantly reinforced when I read their plan from 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, where they said, you know, have these stones with the plants named in them and make it an educational walk and everything, which could be pretty great, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, now that the new development is happening there with the apartment, it seems to be a no-brainer.
Well, there's Cody Place, which is open now, and then they're developing Elan, which has 300 homes in it. Yeah. And then, as I said, with the resurgence of all the Sunny Dunes retail and that whole sort of antique district there as well. Yeah. So, and does anybody have any questions for me at all? Because I know we've discussed it the last meeting.
I would just add, it's probably more in the category of parkway than park. And I don't think there's any programming that happens there, which is something the Parks Department is more responsible for, activities and things like that. But I can't say, you know, there's a hard definition for park versus land with plants that is city owned and recreated upon.
And you know, that was one thing that Teresa even said, as she said, look, if this moves forward, we may designate this as a park. Right.
Yeah, and Commissioner Armstrong, you're certainly doing the right, by approaching all of these various entities, we will come to the end point of what it will be, whose responsibility, and then we will be the art component. So yeah, it's a good direction.
I would like to add something. Gary, you had mentioned about plants, desert plants. And I think this also, too, we can look at the educational aspect of this because it's a fairly safe area to have students in that area learning about their environment. And I know there's grant funding for that because we did it at my former school. So if we wanted to use that aspect, there's probably grant funding for that.
You know, and that was one thing that that Jeannie mentioned, the woman who's in charge of the library, and she's also Parks and Rec. She said that, you know, there's a school right there, just a couple blocks away, and she said they would really be happy with it, you know. And as I said, once we sort of get the pieces in place and we know conceptually, I think then we do go after some grant funding. Sustainability has access to all of that as well. So, okay.
Excellent. Okay, other topic under item 4 is Art is Everywhere Neighborhood Grant Program. This is the program that we voted on, recreating what we did the last couple of years. We approved $25,000 for up to $5,000 per grant for 5 neighborhoods. So this is approved by City Council, but each grant that we do, so it's up to us as commissioners to reach out to various neighborhoods of town, merchant groups, as we did with the popsicles and Sunny Dunes. I approached the antique vehicle, the bagel place. So we have the opportunity to do this installation. Would you like it in your neighborhood? So if we can come up with the community and the project that caps out at 5,000, then we would vote on it in the Arts Commission meeting, and then it goes to council for approval, and then it would be moved forward as a project. So we had thought that we could get it approved, that we would have the control over spending the $5,000 with our approval, but no, it does need the council approval after we create the project. So that's the basic update on that.
And Russell, I can add that we have had one neighborhood organization reach out with some interest, and it's the Tockwitz Creek Golf Neighborhood Organization. They're interested in doing an installation at one of 2 entranceways to their neighborhood. The chair of the association emailed just a short sort of inquiry about it, and I did follow up with him and ask him to fill out the questionnaire that's online. I don't know if they've done that yet. But I believe the process will be that, like, once they, when a group sends in their proposal, we can bring it to the commission and then discuss who on the commission will sort of help shepherd it through. And I think there was Tracy was really helpful in preparing this to go to the city council. And one of the feedback she got from staff is that they wanted like really clear transparency on who on the commission is working with these neighborhood organizations. So just so everyone's aware of what the process is.
Yeah, and just to reiterate from our standpoint, as commissioners, we can, if we happen across an artist who has a piece that could be available for an installation, as was the case with the John Cerny popsicles, we had the opportunity to do this installation. So I approached the people in Sunny Dunes neighborhood. So we don't necessarily need to wait for them to fill out an application. We can approach neighborhoods as well if we have something that's available to us. So that way we can perhaps get more results on getting these grants moving forward.
Sure. So I'm happy to continue talking with the Tockwitz Creek Golf organization.
Yeah, that would be great.
And hopefully bring that back, in a month or 2.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Yeah, so Barrett, do the applications go in digitally? Are those on the website right now?
There's a form on the website that we're directing people to. This one just came in through an email for now.
And who would, so then you're the one who's catching those, right?
Right now, Tracy has access to that, but I believe I can check them as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And where are we? Okay. Main Street update. Matthew, do you have something for Main Street?
I do. There's one item on here that I think Gary will be interested in, considering what he was just sharing with us. But the first item is about Gay Pride. It's the 36th year for Gay Pride here in Coachella Valley or in Palm Springs. It'll take place the 4th, 5th, and 6th. The thing that, first of all, too, it was mentioned in the meeting that the rainbow stripes need to be updated. That's not really our responsibility, but I just thought I would bring that up because it was mentioned. The director of Gay Pride stated that there will be another art installation, not similar to the one that was there last year with the rainbow laser production of the show. But that he really was happy that received a lot of national attention. So there will be another art installation. He's not sure exactly what that is. In the meeting, today, Councilman Kors and Gary, this may be of interest also, spoke of funding for shade structures in the public parks. He specifically mentioned Baristo Park. Jay just sent me information prior and I wasn't able to read it. I was looking at it at 3:59. But I'm interested in finding out because I think shade structures, I've looked at those before online and they can be very beautiful pieces of art and still provide shade. So I would like to find out more information on that. And if I do, I can share it with Gary if he's interested in that.
I am happy to share this information. This is the CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grant Funds, which are used for low to moderate income neighborhoods. So the work done with these funds has to be in these neighborhoods, and the parks identified, Baristo Park and Demuth Park, fall within the census tracts that are eligible for this. So what the city council decided a couple years ago was instead of doing what they typically do of having an RFP out to nonprofits, asking them how they would like to utilize the CDBG funds. And then as a result, the council gets lobbied by a lot of different nonprofit groups. So they made the decision to focus the CDBG funds, well, what's called the capital improvement part of those funds, on just city projects. So last year was repairs to Baristo Park, to Demuth Park bathrooms and air conditioning. And this year is what I think we're just right now in the second year of this type of programming for city projects. Our engineering department recommended the shade structures that they were planning on installing. So this is what the council will consider for approval. And I think to move it forward, Commissioner Lesniak, as you're thinking, we'd have to work with the engineering department if there's a desire to do a more like a call for artists to design these. Otherwise, they do just pull them off the shelf and have them installed, I think. So that's, we can have further discussions with the engineering department on how to proceed with something like that, if assuming that that's the objective here.
Thank you. Do we have any thoughts on that?
Well, Jay, I'm just wondering, do you have access to the plans for the downtown park and some of its original inception? Because there were shade structures in some of the plans for that park, and some of them were pretty cool looking. I mean, I think they were, I don't know if they were probably not artist created. The park planners are probably going to have them fabricated more by a metal shop or something, or engineering firm.
Well, I'll check around. I was came on board, I think, right when some of those when the park was being planned. I'll see if I have anything that I can distribute.
Yeah, and I'll look also. I'm not sure if I saved any of the original blueprints, but I may have, because we worked with the park designers. So it's certainly something we can look into and research.
I have one other question. Would it be okay if I contacted the engineer to make him aware that we're interested in working together?
Yes, that's fine. In fact, I'd probably walk over there myself just to confirm, that we could go down this path without upsetting, any of the work he's already has in place. So I think we can both do that. I'll let him know. You may also be contacting him.
Yeah, that would be great, Jay.
So wait, I'm a little dense on this. Matthew, where are you putting your shade structures?
Well, as Jay said, they're only permitted to be in 2 parks.
Yeah.
Again, this was mentioned briefly in a meeting today, and I didn't have any background information on it. Jay just sent me the information on it, and I wasn't able to look at it prior to the meeting.
So if the engineering department has these shade structures, why is this Arts Commission?
Well, that wouldn't be us. It would only be if we were going to commission artists and do an RFP for artists to create
Okay.
ones. So,
Okay.
so yeah, so Jay and Matthew can check on what direction the engineering department would like us to go. Use existing ones, then it's their department. Do art ones, then it's us.
Got it.
Great. Thank you, Matthew.
That's it.
All right. Downtown benches. Matthew is going to bring forward at our next meeting the possibility of hiring a cleaning firm, Desert Arc, to do the cleaning. But I have a question to Jay on this. If this is something that we were going to have a firm do, would it not need to go out for requests from everyone or proposals from everyone that does this sort of work?
Yes. It would require some kind of a solicitation.
Right.
Depending on the amount, the solicitation can be phone call bids, written letters, or formal full-blown RFPs. So just kind of depends on the level.
Right. Because Matthew and I actually met yesterday. So what I would like, Matthew, as I mentioned yesterday, and for the other commissioners to know, with this particular company, I would like to see, being that the city maintenance department doesn't have the willingness to do any power washing on the benches at a lower setting, I would like Matthew with a cleaning service with Tyson Knight, who is our artist responsible for the maintenance of the benches currently, to supervise what they would actually do. And then we could put out requests for other bids to come in. But I want to make sure that even as a lower setting, power washing is still going to be not destructive to the benches. Because right now, Tyson is basically doing a hand scrubbing and cleaning them. So, and we would still need to maintain or retain, pardon me, Tyson as the person who does the art touch-ups and cleaning. So we would then have, we would then be paying two entities, Tyson and whomever. So, but I want to be assured that some cleaning service can actually do a respectable cleaning job.
Can I ask Matthew, I think it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago, you mentioned the idea of phasing out some of the benches and just bringing them back to their terracotta color because the maintenance department was concerned about this. Has that been dropped?
That has not been dropped. I'm waiting till actually Tracy gets back and thinking, because she was part of that conversation, and maybe having a Zoom meeting with those people involved, including those people downtown, to discuss that. I just know from my discussions with those people downtown, they're not in favor of having the benches painted out.
Right. Well, and also this is an arts commission project. So it's we who would basically, we control the project. So it's, I mean, we can certainly take their input, but as far as I'm concerned, these benches are not ready for any phasing out or back to the ugly puke brown that they originally were. We just need to go back and Tyson's test pilot project, he's maintaining those beautifully. They look spectacular. Those were done in 2019. And then the other phases were done in 3 periods over 2020, 21. I guess we finished in 21, have lost track of all sense of time. But we just need to go back to phase 1, address each bench. Are they sound? Do they need anything? Because we should have 2 to 3 years more longevity on the benches and just address them as an as needed basis.
I would also like to add, I did speak to the executive director of the program, and she said she's willing to meet downtown. No problem with that. We can with Tyson and go over the process and procedure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking also too, if the low pressure hose doesn't work, I'm sure they would also be willing to do a hand wash and rinse for the benches.
Right. But if that's already what Tyson is willing to do and we're paying him to do it, then I don't think we would really need to double dip. But get the information from us and get a test on one of them, and then we'll have an informed decision or discussion.
Okay.
Or discussion and decision. All right, cool. So can we move on to item number 5, which is the Richard Wyatt mural. Gary and I attended a meeting at the Desert Highlands Estate couple of weeks ago, on April the 12th, actually. And I addressed the community members who were there and said that we as the Arts Commission, it's our responsibility to go out to every neighborhood that has an art project and make sure that we're getting the wishes of the neighborhood met. And we laid out the possibility that we have the options of, if the neighborhood would like the mural repainted as it is, have a new mural painted with some more relevant or more current historical component, or would you like the mural as it is replicated on ceramic tile and attached to the building? As we have learned through the engineer that we hired, that this is possible. And they very strongly said and emphatically said that they want the Richard Wyatt mural recreated on ceramic tile on the building. So I requested a letter to that from Cynthia, the head of the committee. Have not received the letter yet. So perhaps what I will do is email Shonda to have that so that it's in place. And then Jay, moving forward, if we have their letter stating that this is what the neighborhood wants, is there a need for any other further public meeting on this issue?
I don't think so. No. You know, it's and that's in regards to the plan moving forward. That sounds like that would be the plan. Ceramic, if the Arts Commission decides it wants to pursue that. And then, of course, I technically it's a mural, so it requires the planning application, or I don't know if it's a new mural or you know, if it goes through the same process that a new mural would go through. But then also I want to say it ultimately does get back to City Council,
right,
for approval.
Would city, during that process, would the city engineers, they would rely on the firm that we hired and gave the engineering report, so that they would take that as support that the wall will hold the mural?
I believe they would.
Because that's basically supplying them with the engineering report.
Right, and I say that because it was our former assistant city manager who was also the city engineer who reviewed and took a look at that. He arranged for that study.
All right, and that's something we would need to have as an action item in our May meeting or the June meeting. And then the other question is, because the budget is rather large, without having it in front of me, I think it comes in at like 280,000. So would we as the Arts Commission say that we would be willing to commit 100,000 to it and rely on the city to come up with the other funding, or would we have to bear the brunt of that and try to recoup some costs by doing some crowdsource funding or solicitation for donations?
That's up to the commission. You've laid out some possibilities. It could be any variety of that. Obviously, to get the project done and probably under contract, sufficient funds would have to be available.
All right. All right, well, then it's something we can put on our May or June agenda for a more in-depth discussion. But it's great to know that there's no need for any further public meeting. We can just deal with it within our commission.
And Russell, who's been in contact with Richard Wyatt on this estimate?
I think primarily Shonda has, and being that we have, and Jay, I've asked you about it, I think I need to know the clarification on to what extent Shonda can participate in, once it gets to us agreeing to do this as a project and enter any funding, being that she lives in that neighborhood.
Yeah, in a nutshell, the city's attorney said he didn't see any conflict of interest. No.
Okay, great. Because I would like,
right.
Yeah, I would like Commissioner Favreau to be sort of the lead on this because of our community. So I will email Shonda to try to get this letter in place for us, and then we can move forward.
My concern, and because I know the estimate on this was done a while ago.
Right. Well, that's one thing I would have Commissioner Favreau get back in touch with Richard Hyatt, say, okay, we've got forward movement on this project. We need an up-to-date budget, timeline, how you can interact with the neighborhood, because the neighborhood wants some interaction with their community, and put all of those plans in place so that we can thoroughly discuss it in whether it's May or June agenda.
Yeah, it's because, you know, as I said, the just availability of resources may shift this entire timetable,
Yeah.
and that then also will shift our budgetary concerns as
Right.
well.
Yeah, because being that we have on item 10 is the review and approval of the Arts Commission budget for 2023. And that's something that I also want to table, and that's, we can deal with that, because without having our chairperson here and considering something like this, I've got some notes of how we could break down, as I mentioned before, comfortably allocating 100K from our budget with the hopes of getting the funding from others. So I don't know if that would be enough of a commitment to start the project, or, you know, but that's something we would have to sort out and have it on our agenda, so we have a good like 30 minutes to discuss that as an agenda item, because it needs some time to like process and think and consider. So
The only Vice Chair, the only thing I would add is the city will be moving forward with its budget. Monday, we'll be having preliminary budget discussions. There's always the opportunity to request budget amendments throughout the year, even if that's necessary, because, you know, it's only needed for certain thresholds. But, you know, there will be some desire to have Public Art Commission buy off on the numbers that go in for the Public Art Fund.
Right. And well, we did look at that in one of our last meetings, did we not? Was that in March? So we basically have signed off it, because we understand that we have the latitude of taking money and shuffling it around and making that. So I think it's basically sort of approved.
Thank you. And essentially, the unallocated dollars are in an acquisition line. So
Right.
if it is desired to use funds for any large project, they're already there.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Shall we move along to item number 6? Cultural. I can't even say it. Item number 6.
Well, my support and apologies for Jay for being a little thrown off track by a city council member. He did a valiant job of pitching this concept, and a city council member said that he had a plan for the garage that no other city council members knew about, and city staff didn't know about, and the Arts Commission didn't know about. And it turns out, as Jerry pointed out to him, his plan, Arts Commission dollars cannot be used for his plan. So that sort of stymied the conversation. And so right now the project is on hold because the city council member needs to do more thinking on it. Two interesting points came up in discussion. City council member Holstage was concerned about another piece of artwork going downtown, and she felt that we need to do more outside of downtown. That's a fair criticism or assessment. And then the other one was City Council Member Woods sort of spoke very ardently on maintenance of murals, and he's not a big fan of murals overall because they require a lot of maintenance, and they fade in the desert heat, which I guess he hasn't looked at all the sculptures that have that are in the desert that need a lot more maintenance and are more expensive to maintain. So that was a thing. My question and my concern, and this is a question for Jay specifically, is we weren't asking for formal approval, and that was laid out in the document. This is not approval. This is just we need approval of the idea so we can move forward and solicit artists, because we cannot hire them until we know we're moving forward. And they didn't quite seem to grasp that. And they're like, well, why are we giving money when we don't know what it looks like? And so I guess it is a chicken or egg thing. How do we get approval for something before it's complete?
Well, I believe they did say to try and kind of flesh out what the artwork might look like. I don't know how that works with artists, that you tell them, here's, what's creative. Here's what we think
Right.
you should do.
Well, we can't actually do that, because if you look at, although it's a larger scale project, we did that for all of the benches. We did an artist call and they submitted their plans for what the bench would look like. So we could do one or two things. We could just simply ask Pete, who we wanted to be as their art director, if he's comfortable with the artist coming up with some rough sketches for each portion or the walls that they're going to do, with the hopes that those would get approved in the funding. Or we could reassess it and say we would like $5,000 approved to get artists paid to submit their plans. Either way, but Jay also mentioned in an email that being that we're in a period of time where the city council and city manager is reassessing what all of the commissions do, they might be reluctant to move forward with a fairly large project like this at this time. So I don't know how that factors into it. But then to go back to what Gary said about Christy Halstead wanting to have more art in other neighborhoods, this is a key point going back to our neighborhood grant program. If we are proactive and go out to neighborhoods and approach them, then we've got the possibility for 5 different neighborhoods in the city to have art in them.
And Christy Holsage also said, she was waiting for, and she wished the Arts Commission would present an overall plan, which I believe we have.
Yeah, we had a pretty good plan laid out.
Yeah.
And then further to that, if we want, as Jay also mentioned in the email, if we would like to have this go back to city council if we want to get some sketches first from some of the artists, then we would request that it be a new business item for them, so that we, yourself, Gary, or I could be on the Zoom council meeting or in person, so that we specifically could answer questions to them, because we have the depth of the information and the knowledge of what the project is about. So that's also an option. I would suggest that we do that with a project like that, so that we don't have to rely on Jay to remember every detail that we've talked about and what the artist would do. And we could answer all of those questions at the time.
Mm-hmm. And one other point which relates to this and came through my conversation with Teresa, the assistant city manager, on the parks idea, which she said, we need to also ensure that this is not only going to be a priority for an overall priority for the Arts Commission, but then a priority for city council where they want to be spending the money. So it seems as though they're trying to do more long-term strategic thinking and allocation of resources, as opposed to piecemeal, hey, here's a cool idea. So as I said, it seems like there's
Yeah, that's sort of a tricky one, because it's, can you project 2 years from now what art installation you want to do with this artist in this spot? Yes. No, it's more whatever that word is.
Yeah, and the thing is, art needs to be a balance of proactive and reactive.
Right.
Art needs to be immediate. Otherwise, it's a little corporate.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if we can turn the tables a little bit and maybe ask the consultants to come and discuss with the Art Commission their preliminary plans for the signage, the directional signage, and maybe get feedback from them on how art murals on those walls might work. Mm-hmm. I don't know who they are or their accessibility, but
well, yeah, this is a frustrating thing for me. After Friday, after the council meeting when it was pulled, I emailed both Councilmember Woods and Holstead saying that, okay, whoever this consultant is, can we arrange either an in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting? And neither one of these council members replied to our email. So how do we interact with consultants if our city council members won't even interact with us?
And I guess, Jay, my other question is something you addressed is public arts funds cannot be used for Wayfinder. You know, that's a utility.
Yeah, it's something about functional furniture that, you know, if it's used, because that would allow the developers who paid the funds in to get it back out and maybe satisfy, you know, bench requirements that the city puts on them using public art funds. I think that's why it was written that way. So in this case, interesting. I mean, the city's the owner of the parking garage, though. So
Yeah, really, these two things have really very little in common and really very little need for interaction, but we're willing to hear what they have to say if they would respond to our email.
Yeah.
So perhaps, Jay, you could encourage them to respond to us.
yeah, we'll do. That was kind of my idea with the having it as an action item in the on the agenda the next time we talk about these things. So.
All right. Okay, well, perhaps I'll re-email both of the council members and see if we can take a next step with just meeting with them, get ideas from them.
And you saw that council member Holstage, her action was just to forward that request to me. And so, you know, we're getting into a vicious circle here.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So your suggestion for moving forward, Jay, is what?
I would say if we can get a meeting with these consultants, have them come to the commission and explain what they have in mind. I heard, you know, they weren't going to be activated for a few months still.
Right.
But in addition to that, some of our next actions, particularly if it's just a report on the work of the commission, might be a good opportunity to have commissioners in front of the city council to discuss and explain some of the intent. With the caveat that we're waiting for the other shoe to drop with how the city wishes to prioritize activities and work with commissions. So.
And when do we think that shoe will drop?
I think tomorrow. I think, yeah, we'll hear at the council meeting if they talk about it, or maybe it gets, you know, maybe more information might be requested. So we don't know exactly, but at least it should be addressed by tomorrow.
Okay, well, I'll tune into the meeting tomorrow night, and that will give us some sense of what to do next on this project. All right. So shall we move on to item number 7, commissioner ideas for new project. These are meant to be like 10 minutes or less if anyone has something that they wanted to lay out as a proposal that they're working on, just for general information to the other council members. So does anyone have something? Anything?
It's just a generic concept that I've probably been, you know, rambling about since I've been here. And I would like to try and pursue curated art walks throughout the city, highlighting our entire catalog of artwork. And if there was a way we could curate it to thematic events around that the city is doing. So Matthew mentioned that they're going to be doing a bigger thing for Gay Pride in November. I think it'd be great if we could find, if there's a handful of art by gay artists, and highlight them and somehow promote that, of 12 to 15 pieces throughout the city that are by gay and lesbian transgender artists. I don't know if we have that information. I don't know if when we purchase an art, or if we, you know, if we know that about them, or if it's just, we sort of know it as an aside.
Well, it is actually something we could, because was it last year? Somewhere in the not too distant past. The artist who we've worked with, Jev Peck, known as Everett, who did the fault line in the pit, he actually organized basically a gay art walk for lesbian and gay community artists who were in the downtown neighborhood, and went to galleries who were showcasing art. And that's something that can be created that incorporates our art as well as artists who are in galleries. So that's most certainly something that we can.
You know, like I have no idea who did the Lucy bronze statue downtown. You know, maybe that's a gay artist for all I know.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we'd probably have to focus on some of the more current art, like Jeb, for instance, Fault Line. A few of the benches are done by LGBTQ community members. So
I also add something to this discussion, because I think there's an opportunity right in front of us for an art walk, and we're missing like approximately, we're missing thousands of people that come to the Convention Bureau every week. And there's an artist walk, a sculpture garden right across the street. And many of those people don't even know it exists or what the art is there, because they're busy doing other things. If they've got 15 minutes and there's a pamphlet there, they could very easily walk over there and enjoy the art. And I think that's something that's already in existence. It's a beautiful sculpture garden. And I think we should start there first, or I would suggest starting there first, because there are people in the convention center every week.
Yeah, the Jackie Lee Houston Plaza is a little jewel that few people even know about. They drive past it, it's nothing. So yeah, and this is something that we could do also with signage, because right now we have an issue with our QR codes being inactive because we need to pay the hosting company, whatever it is, $169 and some cents. I sent this to you, Jay. So, but having a QR code at the entrance to the plaza, which would link to our site, that would explain what these pieces are, when they were installed, who the artist was, would be key to sort of addressing, giving more information to public on what the art actually is.
Cindy took care of that, Russell. So it's paid, and she's having Madeline to send her all the contract and password information and everything. So.
Oh, fantastic. Good. So if I may, a question to that, Jay, because I know the city has put out requests for proposals to hire a city social media person. And where do we stand on that?
I asked if we had such a person. I did not get an answer yet, but the response I got was that Cindy took care of the QR codes for the Arts Commission. So not quite social media person, but I don't have an answer yet on status of social media consultant.
Yeah, because something that I would like us as a commission to perhaps consider, being that the city, if the city does not have a person in place now or won't, like in the next couple of months or a few months, is doing a contract extension with Madalena, so stuff like this doesn't happen where we find out that all of our QR codes don't work. So if you could let us know, Jay, what, if any, timeline there is, then we can address that at next meeting.
Okay.
All right.
I have one other question. Would the commission be interested, and I'm sorry to interrupt, would the commission be interested in my contacting someone to maybe present a proposal to the commission regarding the creation of a pamphlet or something for an art walk for the sculpture garden across from the convention center? That was a question.
I'm thinking of the answer. Give me a moment. Well, I mean, certainly you can reach out if this is something we wanted to do as a given, because a pamphlet, because we did used to, on occasion, table at the Village Fest. And if we had a pamphlet there, that would also be a good way to let tourists know where they could or should go to see some of the art and give them information, as well as the very few local people who go to Village Fest, we could inform them. So a proposal to that effect would be, I would be open to that option.
It's also a starting point.
Yeah.
Matthew, I'm thinking they could say something in public comment, but if the commission decides to provide a pamphlet, it would probably be go through the procurement process to get a few different bidders and then have that done. But my understanding is in the recent past, there haven't been a lot of bidders. There's probably one or two shops in town that do that type of work. So,
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, so moving on to item 8. Does staff anything to report on this yearly work matrix thing? Or is that something that will be part of council meeting tomorrow?
that's the council meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Item 9, and I hope that the staff update is that the payment has been made to the sign company that did put up the banners.
Yes, payment has been made, but not by the city. What the city attorney and city manager's office identified was that Desert X was responsible for the payment for maintaining those sculptures, and so they had sent the vendor over to Desert X, and the vendor was paid.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. And item 10 is review and approve our Public Arts Commission budget for fiscal year 2023. So as we touched on earlier, we did basically do this in our March meeting, and with the understanding that the funds are there, they can be moved, sort of melded to our needs. So do any of the commissioners feel that we have to have any further discussion on this tonight?
No.
No. All right. And we'll move on from that. Any item H, report from director/staff.
Commissioner, I just have this one request that came in from a council member about the art piece by Crescendo. It was part of the temporary art program. I believe he had previously requested if the city can purchase that art piece and make it permanent and add one of the art benches to that location.
Well, that's very good, because I wanted to have that, we actually had that on the agenda, I think last December, but we did have with E. Tyler Burton, who is the artist, the agreement was basically for a year or so. We didn't really define it. But we have, so the year is basically up in June. So I'll make sure that that's on the agenda, because I absolutely do want us to buy that and make it a permanent installation. And I had pestered the city to place a bench there. So when we do approve that it get purchased, then that would be the impetus to get an actual bench there. So I'm very happy to hear that that council person is willing to have that, because it's a beautiful piece of art. It's beautifully placed. It's magnificent. So
I'm sorry, what piece is this?
this is the Fossils of the Future, which is on the Crescendo property, which is a open land property that's owned by the city in Little Tuscany on the corner of Racket Club West and Leonard.
Yep.
And if you've not been, you have to, because it's cited beautifully. We have the QR code, which will now be active again, showing Tyler working the piece, and she's explaining what her thought process is on it. And yeah, it's a great piece. And I think the purchase we did, if I remember correctly, it was $15,000 was the purchase price. So we did a $5,000 loan payment. So the final money would be $10,000. Just so you have that information for next meeting to think about. All right, any other, so item I, any other commissioner comments?
We got one quick thing.
Sure.
At the picnic, the president of a local Rotary club spoke with me, and she was interested in having someone from the commission speak at one of their upcoming meetings. This is apparently a different Rotary Club than puts on the Chalk Festival, who we worked with. So I said, yeah, I'd look into it. I sent the information to Tracy because I didn't really know what the process was. And she's like, sure, anyone can go talk to them. I don't know what their schedule is, and I don't know if my availability would work with this. So I wanted to just see if anyone was interested in.
And who is this other Rotary Club?
Her name is Michelle Nobleman. Tracy thought maybe they meet downtown at lunchtime. I don't have the name of the club in front of me. It's on her card somewhere. But
why would there be more than one Rotary Club in Palm Springs?
Are they like gangs? Were they like the West Side Story?
I don't know. I'm not a Rotarian, but there apparently are multiples. I don't know if they're competitive or if they work together on stuff or what, but.
Well, yeah, get some information on who they are when they meet and who their competition is, and we'll consider going to a meeting.
Okay, I'll reach out to the president and get a little bit more information.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Barrett. Anyone else?
I just have one other thing to say, and it goes in with what you were just talking about, fossils of the future, and what we were talking about, maybe having some type of artist walk during Gay Pride or other events. Just something to think about for the future. Could we possibly commission a couple of artists during Modernism Week or Gay Pride and have them at their pieces at specific times? So individuals that are attending those events could say, okay, I want to go to this event because this artist is going to be here between 9 and 10 and talk about this specific piece. Just something to think about.
Sure.
I will say that modernism is very protective of the events that happen during modernism.
Yeah.
They do not allow anybody, they call them bottom feeders if you try and do an event during their event, because they make money. That's how they approve the brand, and they approve all things like that.
Yeah.
Similar thing with Gay Pride, but I don't think they're as vicious as Modernism Week people are,
right,
surprisingly. So it's, to me, it's the sort of thing where we should, we can reach out to the event people like Modernism and Pride and say, hey, these are opportunities you may want to consider. And then Modernism will probably sell that opportunity to a sponsor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but it is a cool idea to have something organized by the Arts Commission where we would have a couple of artists on site during some auxiliary event, whether it's Village Fest, which might be easier, although people would have to drive to wherever it is. So, but there certainly are pieces that are walkable when people are already at Village Fest. So, Jay, would you recall when we did tabling with someone at Village Fest? Who did we table with?
I don't recall. That might have been something Jennifer Henning handled,
right,
when she was working with the Arts Commission.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm good friends with a Village Fest commissioner, Christopher Ramirez, who unfortunately, but anyway, I'll reach out to him and find out what their options are there. So that might be a possibility. So, okay. All right, well, if there's no other business, could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 5:15?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 5:15.
No, to adjourn to our next meeting. It's, you've
To
got
adjourn to our next meeting.
regular meeting on May the 18th, 2022.
At the regular meeting on May 18th, 2022.
4 p.m. via teleconference.
4 p.m. via teleconference.
Thank you, Matthew. Second?
Second.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
Don't we have to?
Hour 15 minutes. Yay, bravo, we did it. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.